The Scott Ryfun Radio Show.
Yep, there we are. Good. Wow, people are already stacking up. Good morning to everybody. And of course, the very first thing we got on the chat this morning was Paul McClellan's thumb. If we don't have Paul McClellan's thumb, we can't get started for the day. How are you? Good to see you. Good to have everybody here. Good grief. There's a big line of people waiting to say hello, and I'm glad to see that. Oh, I made a song last night. Sadly, this song, I didn't, I gave it very little prompting, but I did make a song. And now, thanks to this song, Effingham County will have no water for the next 17 years. Sorry about it.
Still spins just fine. You bring the noise, he brings the fight, turns that fire into light. If the crowd gets loud and mean, he stands his ground in the in-between. Head high, no fear in sight, he won't fold on what feels right. One voice cuts through the storm, keeps that backbone fierce and warm. Scott Ryfun, stand your ground, stand your ground. Scott Ryfun, turn it loud, defend that line, defend it proud. He won't back down, he won't bow down. Scott Ryfun all the way.
All right, that's just insane. It's amazing what you can do these days. And again, I do apologize to Effingham County for draining their water for the next 15 years. I felt like I needed to do that. Anyway, let's see who else we got to say hey to this morning. There is Mr. Nip in Alabama. Good morning to you. Gary Vicent, good morning to you as well. Stephen, good morning. And number 8 says good morning, as does number 170. Let me do 170 a favor. We are on Facebook. He sent me a note that he tried to sell his bow. He had a nice bow. Tried to sell it. Facebook Marketplace took it off because they didn't want, I guess, to sell weapons on Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, I know. There's a lot of bow assassins going on out there. So you can see where they would be a little concerned about that. But yeah, it's a thing. Good morning, sir, Mr. Leak. Joe. Della, good morning. How are you? Let's see who else we got here. I come from the land of heat and beauty. There you go. I don't know what any of that means, but okay. All right, Sally, good morning. Hemingway in North Florida. I told you, I know we tickle the tip of Florida because we've got Tom with us, and he is on Amelia Island. So there you go. And then we go up to McIntosh County and we say hey to Karen, and we say hey to 161 here, and we say good morning to Needle. And Roger, I hope we see you this evening at trivia at Max. That's one of the things I couldn't do when I was on the radio, was I was not allowed to promote my trivia night at Max. If it came up in conversation, I could talk about it, but I couldn't promote it because they weren't spending money. And I was being personally enriched by the trivia at Max. Therefore, couldn't really talk about it. But now I can talk about it because I'm not selling ads here. So we're going to do trivia tonight at Max at 7 o'clock. That's why I decided to co-opt the title of today's little stream here, just to let you know, because I can. That's a good thing, right? Morning from Brad. Ward's Toys up in, we'll get to 147 here, giving us a good morning. Bobby says good morning from 135. Number 33 says good morning. Mr. Number 90 in Jessup says hello. Alan says hello. Tony says good morning. Michael says good morning. And it's good to be with us. And we're glad. And we hope you have a blessed day as well. Look at all the people just saying hi to us. That's one of the things I love. And one of the things I really like about this doing the stream with the StreamYard stuff is that everybody's got the chat stuff, and I can put all the chat stuff on the screen. And it's just cool to me to see like everybody with a good attitude in the morning. I just love that. I love seeing people just chime it in to say good morning. Jessica talking about a lovely day so far. And I guess she's back in the state. Are you back in Georgia? Stanley says, good morning, one and all. You do not, no, you do not come from a land down under. And good morning. Okay. Oh, we got another one real quick here. Good morning. All right. See, we got a lot of folks saying good morning to us. We certainly appreciate everybody. We appreciate your liking and subscribing and all of that other good stuff. So, and please keep doing that because it spreads things. And of course, and not disease or anything, but, actually the availability of the program. And so we certainly hope that you do it and you continue doing it. The big thing I think we got to talk about today is that one right there, the Fauci diaries. The Fauci diaries, Rand Paul released these. And this is going to be interesting because Rand Paul released the Fauci diaries Sunday. And I guess because he kept them as a public figure, as part of his job, they were publicly available. And there's just some stuff in there that you're just looking at it going, what? Really? Well, there are pleadings with him. It's funny because he has said very publicly, I never encouraged anybody to close schools. I never encouraged anybody. He turned into Roz on Monsters Incorporated for some reason. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, he's literally has publicly said, I never encouraged anybody to close schools. I never encouraged somebody to shut down. But yet in his diary, he is talking about encouraging people to close schools and shut things down. In fact, very upset with Ron DeSantis. Very angry that Ron DeSantis will not leave Florida closed and claims, it's going to do a lot of harm and all this other stuff. And of course, it didn't. One of the other things, too, is that I go back to, and it's a thing that I have to go back to because I think a lot of people don't remember that I've talked about this in the past. But when COVID first started really making its way around, remember, it hit Europe pretty hard before it got to, it hit Asia pretty hard before it got to us. Not just China, but Asia. And several nations, one of which was Japan. I can't remember the other one, but there were a couple of other nations that had already done a study on COVID spread in schools and found that keeping schools open did not really affect the spread. We knew that. There had already been a study done. And by the time the illness got to our shores, people had already done that study. And yet they insisted on closing down the schools. And I'm sorry, I believed then as I believe now. And look, it was lethal. There's no doubt about it. I know people, not person, people who died. So I'm not going to be one of those people to tell you, it was nothing. Because it was something. It was a really bad flu. It was a really bad flu. But when people, and I would say that on the air and people get angry with me for saying that. How dare you say it's just a really bad flu? Well, no, it's not just a really bad flu. It is a really bad flu. And no, everything bad that comes with that is implied, I think. But the flu kills people. The flu kills tens of thousands of people every year in this country. The flu is not something to be taken lightly. I got a little offended that people were taking the flu lightly when they would say, how dare you say it's just a bad flu? No, it's the flu kills people, and this is worse. But it was interesting because one of the things he admits in his diary is that the numbers, the fatality rate, the case fatality rate, is about a tenth of what he was running around telling people it was. He acknowledges that in the diaries. He acknowledges in the diaries that the Wuhan wet market was not the primary source of the virus in the first place. And again, none of this is stuff he was saying publicly. Fauci's going to go before Congress tomorrow. And I'm sure he's going to be defiant and arrogant and loud and try to shout over Rand Paul and insult him. But the reality is, these diaries damage him massively. But I will tell you this: he did enjoy being a star. He enjoyed being a celebrity like you would not believe. Let's go through some of this stuff. The editors of National Review have put out a piece, the damning Fauci diaries. According to, let's see, when Anthony Fauci appears before Senator Rand Paul and the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Wednesday, expect fireworks. According to Paul, during his time as NIAID director, and particularly during the COVID pandemic, Dr. Anthony Fauci took meticulous notes about his work. He made note of conversations, decisions, and his thoughts about actions taken by politicians and other officials. This past weekend, Paul released a gargantuan 1,141 pages of Fauci's notes. Very little in these pages enhances Fauci's already deeply tarnished reputation. Most notably, on January 26, 2020, Fauci wrote, "It now appears using epi data and genomic data that the first infection was in early December and was not connected to the market." This is January 26. Understand, I mean, we didn't really go full-blown crazy on this stuff until like March. So he's already very, very well aware. He's very well aware that the market is not the source of the virus. The infection spread among people weeks before the Chinese reported they were dealing with a new infection, and that gave the virus time to establish itself in multi-generational spread. Remember, early on, the Chinese were saying that there is no human-to-human transmission, and all the original 27 cases were from the market. Now we know the market was not the source, it was the amplifier. Having said that, somewhere the virus jumped from animals to humans. America and the world spent most of the next 2 years in an increasingly furious debate over whether the virus emerged from the Huanan seafood market in Wuhan, perhaps from a pangolin, or from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the separate institution of the Wuhan Center for Disease Control, which was also doing research on coronaviruses found in bats, or somewhere else. Fauci apparently knew. Notice he didn't write believe or theorize. He could rule out the wet market theory, but never felt obligated to share that conclusion with the rest of us. Instead, he repeatedly dismissed and downplayed the lab leak theory, which again, you know, whether you're a conspiratorially minded person and think they did it on purpose, or whether you're just like me and think they had some lax protocols and they had incidents before and they had another incident where this stuff got out because they didn't properly police it. Either way, everyone was dismissed for saying that the lab leak theory was even possible. And of course, we know now from all the stuff that we're seeing more and more that they were trying to minimize and destroy people who were saying that, while at the same time actually starting to believe it themselves. Fauci insisted he's not responsible for the far-reaching and strict lockdown policies that many states and localities enacted during the pandemic. Show me a school that I shut down and show me a factory that I shut down. Never. I never did, he told the New York Times Magazine in 2023. And yet, here's Fauci's personal writing from March 15th, 2020. I spoke with Bill de Blasio, mayor, New York City, and convinced him based on what I was seeing publicly my conversation tonight to close the New York City schools. I can't do this. This will kill my throat. He had already decided based on what I was saying on TV. I went on to tell him he should close the bars and restaurants in New York City. He said that he would base this on my recommendation. I had a similar call with Ann O'Leary, the COS of Governor Gavin Newsom in California. Ann said that based on my TV appearances today and yesterday, the governor has decided to close schools in California as well as the bars and restaurants. Did Fauci himself give the order to close the schools? No. But Democratic lawmakers did so after listening to him. Fauci's been disingenuous in pretending that America's lockdown policies just emerged out of nowhere, separate from his own beliefs and recommendations. On November 24th, 2020, Fauci made it clear that he was willing to lie to the press in order to keep confidentiality. Biden tweeted today that he has not spoken to me, but his staff has, and I have been very, very helpful. I had told the press that I had not heard from the Biden team since my conversations with Ron Klain were supposed to be confidential. Since over the past several days, Ron has contacted me about my advice for CDC director and FDA commissioner. So again, the non-political Anthony Fauci was helping out Joe Biden and denying it when he was asked about it. That's fantastic. Finally, Fauci's personal notes reveal an unsurprising but still bothersome obsession with his own press coverage. By March 28th, Fauci wrote, "The swag around me is getting really ridiculous. You can buy Fauci t-shirts, mugs, donuts, sweatshirts, candles, pillows, etc. Geez, I do not like this one bit." Fauci may not have loved the swag, but he reveled in the attention. Yeah, he may not have liked the swag because he wasn't getting a cut. On May 21st, 2020, Fauci wrote, "Big front page article about me appeared in the Washington Post. Very flattering. The situation with my national and international fame is explosive and really unimaginable. It's not hyperbole to say that today I am the most famous and talked about person in the country and one of the most recognizable persons in the world. Whew. You know, if only he believed in himself a little more, I think, he could go really far. Countless profiles on me in multiple media. I cannot even read all the things that are written about me since I'm so busy. Seriously. Many medical experts, scientists, and public health officials have asked why public trust in them has declined so severely since the start of the COVID pandemic. More than any other American, Anthony Fauci reinforced the public's suspicions about the honesty of public health officials, and we are still paying the price for his duplicity. Now, that's not the article that I've got up there, which is a Daily Wire article titled "Meet the Republicans Who Sided with Anthony Fauci to Shut Down the Country." Now, spoiler alert, you probably don't even remember them. It's like Hope Hicks. Do you remember Hope Hicks? Hope Hicks is one of them. Hope Hicks was a communications person within the White House. She's a very pretty girl, and of course the media do not like pretty conservative girls, but they backed off of Hope Hicks at one point, took the claws back out. And why? Because she was secretly working with Fauci to promote him and to get his word across, and while at the same time trying to make Trump not look bad for opposing Fauci. I swear to you. And then the other was his actual press secretary at the time, Alyssa Farah. And Alyssa Farah was doing the same thing. She was really working to advance. And see, I'm not going to read you the whole article. I can just tell you in a nutshell what the whole thing is. Because then when they say meet the Republicans, you think it's going to be some giant list and these people, prominent people you've heard of all the day and all the night. But instead, it's it's people who were in positions, but they weren't the biggies. But they were people basically undermining the White House from within, and both in the communications department, by the way, just so you know. All right, let's go back and see what we've got going on here as far as the chat goes. Ricky Smith says, good morning. Oh, we've got that one already. We've already done that. Okay. I got to pick up where we left off. Steve, we did. There you go. Jim, we did not do. 177, the brains of the outfit concur. There you go. All right. Thank you. Philip, good morning. Philip, I have right next to me. See this? This should look familiar. This was a gift from you. It's very close to my guitars, and my guitars are right there. Woody says, good morning. Aaron says, I like turtles. Brad, 25th. Now, do me a favor, Brad. Say that differently. I'm on. That's one of my crusades. One of my little language crusades. I see this all the time. People will go to their 25th reunion, which is not correct because they haven't had 25 reunions. But then they'll celebrate their 25-year anniversary. But the word anniversary contains within it anno, which means year. So when you say just 25th anniversary, you covered it. You don't have to say 25-year anniversary. That's one of my pet peeves. And it's, and if you were the only one who did it, that would be one thing. But it's like everybody versus me on this one. But I'm right. Robbie says, good morning from Blackshear. Good to see you there. Say hey to Steve. Glossen's over there. Muriel says, good morning. Good morning. And of course, number 88 says, good morning and congrats. And by the way, Brad, we do say congratulations. Yes, absolutely. Sharon, good morning from Rankin. Short-time listener who needs a number. Aha, we have not handed out numbers today. All right, let me pull up the spreadsheet. As you know, I try to give no more than 3 per day to, keep from getting bogged down. But Sharon, you did it. You made it. Hope everything's going great for you in Rankin. And let's see. Well, we got some stuff from your neck of the woods to talk about. Okay. I just had Cole the Lego Master identify himself to me. Didn't realize he was Cole the Lego Master. Brad, thank you again. Yes, happy anniversary. 25 years is no slouch. Just shows the politics of it. Swine flu is nasty and kill people. No one has an issue with saying that. You're absolutely right. Dwayne says, good morning. Lee? Oh, Lee Nash. Okay. Mernin. His ego will reluctantly allow him to plead the fifth if he listens to his lawyers. Yeah, it's the ego until it's not the ego anymore. Dan says good morning. James, number 11, says good morning. Thank you. Even if the leak wasn't intentional, Fauci's actions were, and he belongs in jail to deter a bureaucrat from doing this again. If we can find a specific law to charge him with it, I am all over that. All over it. Good morning, Mr. Raymond, my fellow members of the 40, the South Georgia 40, number 111 in the South Georgia 40. I like that term, extreme white coat syndrome. That's pretty darn good. I just realized I'm Cole the Lego Master thanks to my 10-year-old. We've seen you there. I didn't know who you were. Now I do know who you were. Okay. Bo says, good morning. Good morning, sir. Good to see you this weekend, by the way. Bo was out supporting the big ride for the Golden Isles Veterans Village, which was, again, they were looking for 25 riders in that ride. They got 123. Huge. Let's see. Team No Name demands and intends on being present tonight with another mediocre performance. I would expect nothing less. Brad Sir, yes, thank you. Somebody's finally on board with me. Now, you not only have to do it and adhere to it, but spread the gospel of it. And by the way, Brad, happy anniversary. James says, good morning. Good morning from North Carolina this week. We've got a regular from North Carolina now, a different one. Gene says, good morning. Scott, if you still have not given out 3 numbers, may I have one too? Yeah, absolutely, you may. You may absolutely. Let's see. You're now 179. Sharon was 178. You are, Gene, 179. ETZKY. There we go. Done. And then Chris Brewer, old buddy from way back, a Ballard kid. Good morning from Brewer's Morning Drive. Brewer's Morning Drive-In. You got to give me details on that because, I mean, we're not selling ads here, so you can just talk about stuff. And Dwayne says, I need a number. All right, that's the 3rd number today right there. Dwayne gets it. DEWAYNE gets number 180. There you go. 3 numbers, done. We did it. All right. So congratulations, everyone who has a number today. You're numbered in the South Georgia 40. Some of this Jones hooks. We were talking about Jones the other day. Jones heard about it. Jones texted me, had a nice little exchange with Jones. I told Jones, I'll go ahead and tell you this now. I told Jones when I was texting with him the other day that, and I'm going ahead and putting everybody on notice, something on Jekyll that is permanent needs to be named for Jones. Not temporary, not alternative. Something permanent needs to be named for Jones hooks. I mean, honest to goodness. And the transfer, and if Mark Williams maintains it, he'll get his one day too. But Jones hooks takes the people to task on this. This is an interesting. Like on the one hand, it's splitting hairs, but on the other hand, it's not wrong. This is a letter to the editor of the Paper of Record. The news is the Paper of Record, July 22nd editorial proclaiming zoning issue handled correctly by all parties was totally off base. Now, see, that's where I would probably quibble with him a little. I don't know that it was totally off base because most parties handled it well, but he does kind of step in to pick a little nit here. And he's not wrong. He said, maybe you meant the public outcry accomplished the appropriate outcome. However, the island's planning commission did no one or the planning process any favors. As an observer from afar, but one with experience in dealing with ordinances and planning issues, I feel the IPC totally mishandled the situation. Voting to move forward with the zoning request as a spot zoning approval contrary to the county zoning ordinance and comprehensive plan made no sense. Unfortunately, it took lots of time and effort for more than 500 persons to sign a petition and outcry over the proposed medical facility when the process should have been handled correctly by the IPC from the beginning. In my opinion, the zoning issue was not handled correctly by all parties. So what he's saying is the IPC erred in actually passing that thing by the 4-3 vote that they did in the first place. And no, it's not wrong. That, they should not have just passed that on forward in the first place, but they did. So what are you going to do? Hey, here's a story that disappeared off the front pages really, really quickly. I don't know if you noticed that or not. Some guy drove a truck through a pride parade in Germany over the weekend. And, if it had been a white supremacist we would still, a Christian nationalist white supremacist, we'd still be talking about it today. But instead, the suspect of the deadly Berlin Pride attack that left 1 person dead and 29 injured was shot and killed by police during a confrontation on Sunday in a suburb of the city, authorities said. Abdul Ballout, probably Balou, a German citizen with Lebanese roots, was killed following a search that lasted nearly 24 hours after the attack in downtown Berlin. Protesters said he had previously sought to join the militant Islamic State group. Oh, sorry, I said protesters, prosecutors. He sought to join ISIS. In other words, queers for Palestine are left confused today because they don't really know who they're supposed to side with. No, you see this all the time. You see all the LGBT groups going, hey, free Palestine. But this is what Free Palestine thinks of them. And many of us have tried to warn them over the years, but yet no progress gained. Here it is, right there. All right, yeah. Let's also talk about this if we could for just a second. Well, you know what? I'll go to the comments first, just because I want to make sure everybody's got something to say. We'll throw it out there for you. Let's see. So we'll start with Fauci has a federal pardon, but not state level. Dina says, good morning. Good morning to you. Holy Ghost Trucker is there. Good morning. Greetings and salutations, netizens of Rifun's channel. And is it supposed to look like that, or was that messed up? Chuck Tucker says, time to get to work fighting the heat. Good luck on that. And Miranda says, good morning. Beautiful sunrise. Almost to Ocala to watch my boys train. Oh, yeah. Miranda's raising horses. And not just raising horses. She's raising racing horses. Like real competitive. Perhaps you see one in the Kentucky Derby someday, horses. And I think that is really neat. And we certainly wish you good luck on that one. Definitely. Let's see. Oh, good morning. Good to hear your voice. Good Tuesday. It is, all of those things are very true. It is a good morning. It is good to hear my voice. I like hearing my voice a lot. Wow, we got 180 at one time on the stream. I think that's our top number ever. All right. Packed house for the No Data Center community meeting. And there's something in here that I have to point out. I have to point out. Let's get this thing up there. There we go. The No Data Center community meeting. Now, what I like about that is the premise itself is clearly very fair and open-minded and unbiased. The No Data Center community meeting. Residents are mobilized as Rincon, Isabella Baez. Residents are mobilizing in opposition to the planned data center by holding community meetings, signing petitions, and looking for ways to stop the project. Effingham County residents piled into Just Love Coffee Shop Monday to learn more about the OpenAI data center that will be built miles away from their neighborhoods. Excuse me for one moment. All right, there we go. There's no precedent, an Effingham County resident said. We have no idea what the health implications are going to be or the environmental impact for our kids who are growing up right next to this. There is no, I have to say, this person is correct. There's no single one lone precedent for this, because there are 5,400 precedents for this. It is not like, and again, this is the weirdness of the data center opposition, which I'm telling you here and now is coming from outside sources. It is coming from Russia and China. They're feeding the data, the alleged data, to influencers in America, who then take it and run for clicks. And it's people are acting like there has never been a data center in this country before. What are we going to do? How dare they build these awful, horrible, terrible things? Or there are two data centers and they were both evil. There are currently 5,400 data centers operational in this country right now. 5,400. Have you noticed that we do not have mass water shortages around the country? We do not have mass electricity shortages around the country. We have plenty. We're doing fine. We don't have mass kids going crazy from vibrations around the country. You know, when this whole thing first started up and I was looking at actual information and I said out loud on Facebook, these data center people are the same people that were telling you that 5G was going to destroy your brain. I'm not changing my mind on that. Nothing has made me change my mind on that yet. The event was hosted by, this will shock you, the event was hosted by the Effingham County Democratic Party. But this is a great thing, too. I actually love the fact that, yeah, there are Republicans who are opposed to data centers. It's a lot of again, one of the consequences of having, Trump administrations is that it has let the door open to a lot of conspiracy theories in the Republican side of things, whereas a lot of that stuff used to be really the domain of the left. But it's still mostly the domain of the left. And I love the fact that the people who pride themselves on being progressive and wanting to move forward and move ahead with the future, wanting to grow and look ahead, are the people who are really, really adamant about stopping progress. I think it's fantastic. This is a weird story in the Savannah Morning News today. Why a Georgia judge faces formal judicial misconduct charges. And, well, I mean, some of it is just like really petty, and you're going, what? She did, and it's a she judge. I don't know if that means anything or not, but it's a female judge. Let's see, trying to pull it up here. One of the things I've noticed that has happened over time with the way iOS handles internet tabs is it like blanks them off after a little while. There we go. So Vanessa Johns with Savannah Morning News put this together. DeKalb County Superior Court Judge. Have I told you why I do that one? Everybody, when I say something weird, people will always send me a note. Why do you say that? Why do you say it that way? And there's a reason. Florida, I can't even remember why. I heard somebody say it one time and I thought it was funny and I stuck with it. But DeKalb County was listening to a Spencer audio book, which usually I just read Spencer novels, but it was during the height of bicycle mania for me, and which I'm going to try to return to. And so I was trying to listen to whatever audiobook I could, and a while back, Joe Mantegna got picked to play Spencer in a series of movies on USA. And I've seen Joe Mantegna's work for decades. I would never call him Spencer, ever, ever, ever. But he got associated with the character because he played it. And so now he does all of the audiobooks for Spencer. And in this particular book, Spencer had to travel down to Georgia. And Joe Mantegna managed to mangle every Georgia name he came across. But my favorite one was DeKalb County. And he just kept saying, and like, is there not a director of these things that goes, Joe, can we do that again, please? It's not DeKalb, it's DeKalb. Could you maybe do that one more time for us, please? I don't know if it's like Shatner in the booth. Have you heard that audio? Shatner recording the Star Trek animated series, and he says, Spock, sabotage the system. And they're like, could you do that again and say sabotage? No. I don't say sabotage. I say sabotage. You say sabotage. And he won't say it. And it's like, and they when the thing aired, Spock sabotaged the system. And I think it's a Canadian thing. But, I think I would have pointed out that you may not say sabotage, but Captain Kirk, or you may not say sabotage, but Captain Kirk says sabotage. But anyway, yeah, nobody corrected him. And it's out there. DeKalb County. Anyway. DeKalb County Superior Court judge facing formal judicial misconduct charges after Georgia's Judicial Qualifications Commission concluded there was reasonable cause to believe she violated multiple provisions of the state's Code of Judicial Conduct. Now, what are they? Let's go forward. The first complaint stems from a May 2023 criminal calendar call. According to the investigative report, Judge Parker Smith threatened that somebody's going to be in trouble if a null pros filing was not filed by 5 p.m. After the filing was delayed until the following day, she later issued an order requiring 2 assistant district attorneys to show cause why they should not be held in contempt before ultimately rescinding the order. So in other words, she pitched a hissy behind the bench. And by the way, You can't pitch a hissy behind the bench. You just can't. You can't wear the robe and sit behind the bench and pitch a hissy. Second complaint centers on an August 2024 hearing. The investigative report alleges a defense attorney who arrived late after attending a separate court appearance in Henry County was taken into custody, placed in a holding cell, and detained for more than an hour without first being addressed by the judge or given an opportunity to respond. According to the report, Judge Parker Smith later discussed the attorney's tardiness in open court, but did not address questions about the detention. The third complaint alleges Judge Parker Smith refused to take the bench in early 2026 because she did not want a specific... Hang on, it went away. I hate this stuff. Okay, there we go. She did not want a specific sheriff's office corporal present in her courtroom. Now, please remember, sheriffs and their deputies are responsible for security at courthouses all across the state. The investigative report states another judge ultimately handled the return of the indictment so the grand jury process could move forward. The commission alleges Parker violated several provisions of Georgia's Code of Judicial Conduct, including failing to perform judicial duties competently, failing to treat attorneys and court personnel with patience and courtesy, permitting personal relationships or interests to influence judicial court, and failing to cooperate in the administration of court justice. Just bizarre behavior. Yes, crash last night. It was about midnight last night on East Victory Drive and Cedar Street. And I wouldn't have brought it up because it was like I said, it was midnight and beyond. But apparently there were a lot of people still out there late into the night. And there's a picture of it on WSAV's website, which is not pretty. So I figured I'd go ahead and mention it because it may still be an issue this morning. If you're commuting, just wanted to go ahead and give you a heads up on that. Savannah apartment complex residents concerned for their safety after a shooting Saturday night. Residents at the apartment complex next to Fellwood Park have concerns for their safety. So I hear, as El Herschel with this one. The shooting left 3 people injured after reports of multiple fights breaking out near the park. You know, there were groups. It was a couple of groups who were opposing each other. I don't know if you know anything about groups, but apparently groups are pretty bad. Apparently they're not as bad as gangs, but groups are bad. So watch out for the groups, please. But yeah, the residents should be scared. And then they should actually say something. How about that? When is the correct time and place to pitch a hissy? The correct time and place to pitch a hissy. I don't know, but I'll say this. Some people can do it and get away with I would say probably a lot of Little League coaches would say on the diamond. But some would say some can get away with it. Judge, when you're behind the bench, you're wearing the robes, you can't pitch a hissy. I don't know, there's an appropriate place to, but let's see. One time when Mark Stein was filling in for Rush, he mangled the cab with a hard L. I corrected him on Twitter and he said my name in air. So like he jumped up and said your name. That's pretty cool. One of your finest moments. That's almost Fauci in there, Joe. Well, stop allowing gangs to operate in your public housing. Turn them in, then you won't be scared. There you go. Cooperate with the authorities when they're trying to clean up the place instead of treating them as the enemy. This is a little concerning. I don't know if you've seen this one, but this has happened a few times lately. What about that guy that walked off the work detail in Jessup? Did they ever even find that guy? You know who I'm talking about. There was a guy in a work detail in Jessup, like when I was still on the radio, who just walked off, and I don't know that they ever found him. And they didn't really seem to be that focused on getting him for whatever reason. This is a story by Hank Tatum at WSAV. FBI Atlanta is offering a reward up to $10,000 for the arrest of a murder suspect who escaped Atkinson County Jail, a spokesperson said Monday. Pablo Zuriel Miranda reportedly escaped early Sunday morning. A federal arrest warrant was issued Monday for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. The spokesperson said it is believed Miranda may try to flee to Mexico, which is exactly where we want him to be. To be honest with you, that's kind of going to work out in our favor. Thank goodness. But yeah, but again, people just, it seems like we have a lot of people who are escaping from prisons and who are just, and because again, that's 2 in the last several months. And People are not being treated well in prisons. And look, I'm not saying it should be daddy day camp, but there's some real risk of life at this point in prison. The number of people just being killed in prisons in this state, deeply concerning, deeply concerning. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube, please, please, please. We definitely need you to participate. Marie says, I don't know why I can barely hear this. I don't either. I'm not sure what's going on there. Chatham County Sheriff has switched from a red vest to a blue one. It's cool at night in Savannah, apparently. Yeah, that's kind of what you get out of the Chatham County Sheriff. Sadly. And that's kind of all you get out of the Chatham County Sheriff. Not good. Prisons banned jails do not nearly pay enough, so you scrape the barrel for employees. It's dangerous. I've worked them before. I gotcha. Yes, absolutely. And that is a problem. Again, good morning, John. And David, again, North Carolina, says, good morning, Brad Cooper. Happy anniversary. So there you go. Let me, again, remind you, like and subscribe. Go to YouTube. Tell other people to go to YouTube and like it and subscribe, and we'll all be happy. Let's see. What else do we have for today? By the way, you know what I should do? I forgot about that. I didn't know they were having the big anti data center meeting in Effingham last night. Could have sold a ton of these things. Could have sold a ton of them. If only I had known. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Oh yeah. This is interesting because I think this is going to be one of those things where they go, see, you think the flock is harmless, and yet these guys are doing it doesn't say that he was using flock data, but that's people's belief, I think, is that he was using flock data. Allegedly, I should say. Former investigator. Sorry, I thought I'd grab a bite of toast, but I can't really do that because I don't take calls yet. I should have just left well enough alone. Hang on. Okay, there we go. Former investigator with the Office of the District Attorney of the Ogeechee Judicial Circuit of Georgia was arrested Monday, and is currently under investigation by the GBI. Former investigator Andre Wright currently faces the following charges: felony violation of oath by a public officer, felony computer invasion of privacy, misdemeanor stalking, misdemeanor misuse of license plate data. The Office of the District Attorney of the Ogeechee Judicial Circuit released the following statement in response to the GBI investigation, which is basically they're aware. They fired him July 9th, and they can't really say much else. That's basically what the announcement says. But, people have looked into this guy's history. Not the first time that he's left a law enforcement job over a charge very similar to this. So this is not a situation where, see, we've got the flock cameras and the flock cameras are bad and it's good that, these guys misused it. This guy misused data. We don't know what, maybe flock, we don't know. But he allegedly misused data. And then what happened? They charged him, they booked him, they're going to try him. In my opinion, it's exactly the way it's supposed to go. I mean, it would be the same thing as saying, somebody misused a radar gun. So we got to get rid of all radar guns. Somebody misused a police car because they inappropriately used it. Well, they got Georgia State Patrol officers who are under investigation for allegedly misusing the pit maneuver, right? Yes, we got to get rid of cars. Georgia State Patrol can't have cars. I mean, it's not the tool, it's the misuse of the tool. Let's see. I heard it said the worst part of prison is being at the mercy and relying on the competence of government officials. Well, that's unfortunately becoming more and more and more of the rest of our lives as well, sadly. All right. What else do we have here today? Oh, yeah. This resonated with me. Because I've lived, breathed, and experienced this. In fact, I was complaining last week about that book that I started reading while we were away for the weekend last weekend, I guess. So wait, today's Tuesday. So weekend before last, when we went away for the weekend. And again, it's one of those in the book, every Christian's a nut. In fact, one of the things that killed me was the United Methodists are featured in the book, and they're these crazed religious fanatics, and it was like right-wing crazed religious fanatics. I'm like, the United Methodist Church? The United Methodist Church? Really? They're the crazed right-wing religious fanatics? Are you not aware of any of these struggles that are going on within the United Methodist Church? You're not aware of all these separations that have taken place with the United Methodist Church over the last several years? Because they are not crazed right-wing. They're not crazed enough right-wing zealots. So that's actually caused a problem in there. But it reminds me again of that headline. They have no idea what we think. Abigail Anthony says, in the past week or so, there have been some popular threads and insightful discussions on social media about the presence of conservatives and conservatism, or more accurately, the lack thereof in universities. Below, I paraphrased responses contributed by presumably left-wing individuals defending the state of academia in no particular order. 1. Conservatives oppose education itself, independent of what's being taught at educational institutions or how they lean politically, and therefore do not train enough qualified people. And conservatives just don't believe in education at all. That's how you write this stuff out. And again, that's when it's one of the most frustrating things I have, or that occurs to me, is when I have debate, discussion, discourse, or just am reading online debate discussion, or I'm reading a novel, for crying out loud, where I shouldn't have to deal with this stuff, is how liberals do not know what conservatives think. They don't know what conservatives believe. Universities are for literate people, therefore conservatives are excluded. Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny again, because we were talking about, I was talking about my one of my college professors the other day. And he's the only one that I had in 4.5 years that I could look at and say, I believe this guy is a conservative. I couldn't look at that guy and say, I believe this guy's a conservative, because he was espousing conservatism in class. But the way he conducted himself, the way he held himself, the way he kind of referenced history, etc., I felt like he was a conservative. He was also loathed among the lefties. And they would never say, yeah, we hate this guy because he's conservative. We hate him because he's mean. We hate him because he's cruel to people. He doesn't give them constructive criticism. He just denigrates them and slashes their story, because he was a writing teacher. He was one of my writing teachers. I did really well with him. He and I got along great. Again, kind of feel like was a conservative. But I don't know that because he didn't really drag it into the classroom. But what I just remember is every left-winger that was in that department just hated him. Couldn't stand him. And again, you sit back and you go, oh, okay, I got you. Bill Brubaker, by the way, was his name. Great guy. And he was my advisor for a while, and I had many sit downs in his office where he sat and puffed a stogie and called me Michael for 30 minutes. I still can't tell you what his political leanings were. Again, I have my suspicions, but, don't know for a fact. But he was a great, great professor. Let's see. Universities do not directly discriminate against conservatives on the basis of ideology. They simply maintain rigorous intellectual and scholarly standards that conservatives fail to meet. That's right. Build that little glass house for yourself. Conservatives necessarily hold conservative beliefs, none of which are intellectually defensible positions, and therefore conservatives are unfit for academia. They buy this stuff, by the way. This is not uncommon. If you go on Reddit, you will see this over and over and over again. Let's see. Conservatives support Trump, so they must be stupid and therefore do not belong in universities. You know, I read this stuff and I think about the fact that the God's work that Chancellor Rodriguez is doing down in Florida, and I'm happy. Makes me happy again. Intelligent people lean to the left. And because academia is for intelligent people, academia leans to the left. How about that one? And it's amazing just like how shallow the thought process is here. And it's all about, let's build a box so that we're the only ones who fit in it. And those guys, they don't fit in this box. Are you kidding me? How dare you think that guy fits in this box? That's absolutely crazy. Universities do have viewpoint diversity by virtue of having different disciplines and specialized schools. Therefore, the complaints about a lack of viewpoint diversity are unfounded. But, part of the problem is, again, when you're required to take things like humanities, and humanities has been completely eaten alive by the far left, you're not required to take free market economics. You're not required to take soulism, and so they try to wire the way you think. They try to wire your beliefs and tell you this is the objective truth about the world, and it's all liberal. Gee, gosh, go figure. That's why we believe it, because it's the objective truth about the world, of course. And again, they're only exposing you to rampant left-wingery. This other stuff's available. And that, again, is the beauty of what they did in Florida. And Rodriguez, Raymond was right in the middle of it, where, they basically said, you're not going to require people to take courses that don't show all sides. You're not going to require people to take courses that don't actually have viewpoint diversity. And the humanities were going, well, we want to use these textbooks. And they said, fine, you can use those textbooks. And they said, okay, we're going to use those textbooks. They said, okay, but we're not going to require humanities anymore. And that way, if people want their left-wingery, they can go get it. And they screamed and they cried and they howled, but that's exactly what they have done to any other doctrine that isn't advancing rampant left-wingery over the years. And the excuse has always been, it is available for you if you would like to take it. The classes are there for you if you would like to experience them. The major is there if you'd like to go into that field, but it's different when it's part of your core curriculum. And that first 2 years you go to college where they're really supposed to be teaching you how to think. And now the humanities was a great example of how it had just devolved into rabid left-wingery. And now in Florida, it finds itself not required anymore. And I think that's a huge, huge move. Let's see. Conservatives are almost always bad writers and therefore do not meet scholarly standards. Yeah, like Dean Koontz. Yeah, always the conservatives, just bad writers. You ever read Thomas Sowell? Oh, what a terrible writer he is. I probably have read, in the last 2 years, I've probably read 8 Thomas Sowell books. He's a wonderful writer, amazing writer. Has a real gift for taking very complex things and spelling them out for you in the most simple of terms so that you go, oh, of course. But yeah, bad writer. Conservatives, just bad writers. That's all. Conservatives are anti-intellectual and do not believe in the underlying methodologies necessary for producing legitimate scholarship. An example of conservatives rejecting methodology is apparent in their belief that there are 2 biological sexes. Clearly, they're anti-intellectual if you believe there are only 2 sexes. What are you, nuts? Some disciplines are built on left-leaning premises, like how sociology examines power structures such as racism, and conservatives are unwelcome in these fields because they reject the underlying premises. Yes. Conservatives do reject the underlying premises because they're bogus. But so you just shut them out of the discipline. That's what you do. There are some conservative professors, ergo there's no discrimination against conservatives in academia. But the problem is when you have literally a country that is pretty close to 50-50, and then you have an academia that is 90-10, that's a problem. And 90-10 is being generous in some places. There's no discrimination against conservative beliefs in academia because conservatives who refrain from sharing their political beliefs do sometimes get tenure. What? So if you don't share your conservative beliefs, you can get tenure. If you do share it, you don't get tenure. That's discrimination. I mean, that's like you just defined it by trying to say it doesn't happen. Absolutely amazing. There's a progressive professor who didn't get tenure, so it actually is conservatives who are the problem on campus. There are going to be people of all stripes who don't get tenure. The problem is who generally doesn't get it the most. Shutting down some of the violent pro-Palestinian activism on campus that disrupted university operations means conservatives, not progressives, are opposed to free expression, viewpoint diversity, and debate. Again, it's violent. That's the key word there, violent opposition. Conservatives don't even apply for jobs in academia, which has nothing to do with the current political climate on most campuses. So we can't prove there's discrimination. This is a subject that I have been writing about quietly for a couple of years now. And every so often my wife goes, "Where is that thing?" And I go, "It's not done yet, but it will be one day." Conservatives believe they have a right to the prestige associated with university affiliation, but do not want to put in the effort to achieve the status of professor. Conservatives despise all ideological outgroup members and therefore want leftists kicked out of academia. We want some of them kicked out of academia. When you go into class and you know, but it's not even ideological lines you want some of these guys kicked out because they're not effective at doing their job. I took an F. Like my first 2 years of college, I will tell you, first 2.5 years of college were awful. I barely got by. And then after that, it clicked. And for the next 2 years, I was doing really well. But there's one semester where I had an F. I was actually looking at my college transcript again the other day. There was one semester where I took an F in those last 2 years. And the reason I took an F was because I had 12 hours. My report card was ABBF. Literally, ABBF. And the reason I took that F was because you had to be a full-time student in order to live in the dorms. I had to be a full-time student in order to retain my health insurance through my parents. And I wanted to drop the class in the worst way, but I couldn't. And it was because it was literary criticism. And literary criticism doesn't sound like it's a difficult subject, but it is an intensely difficult subject. And every day I would show up and the professor would spend the entire 50 minutes talking about the movie JFK and how amazing it was and all the details and how great Oliver Stone was and how genius he is. Nothing to do with this. And then she would say, "Oh, and by the way, read this material for next time." And we'd read the material and you'd be like, "This is really difficult, thick, dense stuff." And then you'd show up at class again and we'd talk about JFK. And so like it was time for the first test. And I took the test and I was like, I don't know any of this material because we didn't discuss anything in class except JFK. And so I eventually was like, I can't do this class anymore. This is not for me. And but I couldn't drop it because then I was no longer a full-time student, which meant I could not live in the dorms anymore. I could not have insurance. And so I just said, I'm going to suck this up and take the F and everything else will balance out, which it did. But that's a bad professor. And I'm sure she was a left-winger, but that wasn't her left-wingery that made her a bad professor. And I would certainly deny her tenure because she was terrible at what she did. Sorry. There's a left-leaning consensus in the humanities because left-leaning arguments are won by merit in a marketplace of ideas. They believe this stuff, by the way. They really do. Conservatives want their discredited or rejected views to be considered only on the grounds of fairness. But, the thing is, like, they believe things like the Laffer curve is rejected and disproven and discredited. They believe that Reagan's tax cuts in the 80s were rejected and discredited when none of that is true. They've been fed a line of bull by professors at the college level. And trust me, it's a thing. Conservatives are dogmatic and reflexively reject any counter-arguments that undermine their views. They do not want to be intellectually challenged. That's now you're talking about somebody pointing a finger at someone else and the other fingers are pointing straight back at them. I mean, that's just, I don't even know what to tell you on that one. I, a leftist, had to listen to an awful right-wing professor for a whole quarter. Therefore, right-wing students have to listen to left-wing professors and not complain. You have to listen to one. It's funny. When I was talking to Alan West, he had an assistant with him. And she was a Florida State University person. And I said, "Oh, Florida State, interesting." And we had a little discussion. And I said to both of them, I said, didn't really have a lot of trauma in my life, but the closest I will come is being at Florida State for 4.5 years. And the reason was because, like, I lived on campus for 4.5 years, and it was just, you were constantly your values were under assault. You were constantly being told that everything you believed was a lie. and you were a terrible person for believing it. And just, I mean, it was constant. And everywhere you went on campus, it's still like that. You go on campus now and you're walking and they have trash cans. So I have two trash cans side by side. They don't have one trash can anymore. They have two side by side everywhere. And one says recycle. Very pretty, very wonderful term, recycle. Then the other one says landfill, because they're trying to guilt you into using the recycled trash cans, which is great too, because people wind up putting things in the recycle cans that don't belong there, and then they can't use any of it. But yeah, they'll do. The trash cans are labeled recycle and landfill. Can't just say trash. You have to know that you are putting something into a landfill, and landfills are evil. Welcoming conservative arguments in academic discourse, especially on the premise that the pursuit of truth requires considering a broad range of views, means we open the floodgates to demonstrably false views like the earth is flat, or pseudo-disciplines and methodologies like witchcraft. There's a couple of things to pick apart in that argument. One is, no, you don't have to accept demonstrably false views because there's something you disagree with. But also, I have seen many instances where the left are very, very welcoming and endorsing of witchcraft. I mean, I hate to tell you, I was seeing that online last week in this area. Conservative views are not supported by the academic literature. Therefore, those views are unsubstantiated by evidence and should not be discussed in academic contexts. Again, what literature? There's plenty of literature that supports conservatives and their beliefs. There's plenty. Conservatives are underqualified for academic positions and want to be hired by affirmative action. Okay. Now we've gone a little too far, Nancy. Conservatives want to be ideological DEI hires even though they oppose DEI. I think conservatives are saying, don't shut us out. Give us a fair chance with everybody else, and don't have our ideological bent be the determining factor. Actually, academia has a ton of conservatives and libertarians. The numbers don't back you up on that, man. The numbers don't back you up. The surveys, the polls, the political contributions, nothing backs you up. Nothing. You're just living a lie at that point. A problem with academia is that there are too many conservatives. That is the magic number, by the way. Too many conservatives. Just telling you. Ideological or political leanings are irrelevant when teaching in a majority of academic disciplines, and most academics are not interested in politics and just care about their scholarship. Therefore, ideological or political bias is not a large-scale issue, even though it is. Even though it is. We, the progressives, don't want viewpoint diversity because that would mean hearing from racist, sexist people who want to strip us of our rights. And see, that's part of the problem with left-wing rhetoric in this day and age. Again, the goal, particularly of the left, I mean, anybody who wants to win an argument tries to build a box where they're the only guy who fits in it. Sure, I get that. But the problem is there's a difference between we're right and you're wrong, and we're right and you want us to die. And that's the box that the left always builds these days. I don't think it was always this way, but it is literally, you don't want us to be humans. You don't want us to live. And you want us to die. And why? Well, because you can scare people into really, really, really being passionate about your causes when you realize that the people on the other side want you dead. So to summarize, there are too many conservatives in academia, but also conservatives are barely represented on campus, so academia leans left. And conservatives need to stop complaining about a perceived ideological bias on campus, but we should maintain the existing left-leaning bias because conservatives are dumb and evil. Yet most professors are apolitical, and therefore it isn't a detectable partisanship on campus. Conservatives are discriminated against because their views are immoral or unintellectual, but there isn't an ideological discrimination because they actually just fail to meet scholarly standards. And conservatives are unwelcome in certain fields because they reject the left-leaning premises of specific disciplines, yet conservatives are the ones who resist intellectual challenges. The ideological imbalance is a figment of the conservative imagination, but also it is real and good. The most significantly flawed argument is represented perfectly in a handful of posts from different users, which I will quote. Conservatives are not well represented in academia because conservatism is, for the most part, the ideology of the incurious. Abortion is bad because the Bible said so. Immigrants are bad because Fox News said so. Capitalism is good because Reagan said so. Another person, when describing pro-life arguments and whether they should be evaluated seriously in academic discussion, said, every single argument is about controlling a woman's body. There's nothing to discuss with people who want that. To hire a pro-life ethicist in a gender studies department would be equivalent to hiring a young earth creationist in a geology department, another person complained, because pro-life arguments are built on ideology of subjugating women. Or maybe they're built on a premise of human life. I know that's kind of weird to think about. Maybe they're built on an argument of letting human beings live. Ooh. An assistant professor at the University of Alabama suggested that hiring a geography professor with critical views on immigration is similar to a medical school hiring a pro-cancer doctor or a black studies department hiring white supremacists. That's exactly the issue with universities today. The people arguing that conservatives are too incurious for academia are the same people who have no idea what conservatives believe or why we believe it. In other words, they insist on excluding certain views, philosophies, and ideologies without even vaguely knowing what those are. Ultimately, the left-leaning supporters of academia status quo are incapable of presenting conservative views in terms that we would find accurate, fair, and acceptable because they have no idea what we think. Ironically, those same people consider themselves to be admirable proponents of inclusivity. But as an effort to model open discourse and participate in substantive debate with people who disagree with me, I want to pose the following questions. Here we go. And I want you to think about these because we're gonna rattle off in a little bit. We don't have much longer left here this morning. And I'll go to the comments after I finish this piece. But I do want you to think about these. And I want you to share these. 1, who are the conservative professors who received tenure in the past 50 years but were unqualified for the position? Are there any progressive professors who are similarly received tenure in the past 50 years despite being intellectually unfit? 2, what conservative arguments or positions, if any, should be presented fairly in university contexts for students to consider? 3, is it ideal if there is zero conservative identifying faculty and students at any given university? 4, should a student be able to accurately guess a professor's political views and preferred policies based solely on what the professor says in class? 5, should you strive to be able to articulate the views of your opponent on a given topic in terms that your opponent would deem an acceptable characterization? 6, should the political views of a candidate for hiring or tenure be considered, even if those have nothing to do with that person's scholarship? I suspect I would answer these questions differently for most professors, and that's because we disagree on what the mission of a university should be and how education should be designed to achieve such an aim. I thought this was a terrific piece, and maybe because, again, it hit so close to home with me, but it really stirred me a good bit. All right, let's see what we've got here. Oh, 168's here. Thank you. 167 also here. That's good. Liberals hate if you disagree with them. Conservatives will not hate you if you disagree with them. Has this always been the case? I notice it more now. Does it make sense to me? I will tell you, I don't know. I don't know how long it's been. I don't, oops. Hang on a second. I've lost my video feed. I don't know how long it's been going. I can tell you in college, it was pretty much like that. Scott, she probably already had tenure, so she quit spending time preparing. Much easier to talk about the JFK movie. Maybe that's what it was. But I feel like she was one of those who was going for, felt like she was one of the ones who was trying to get in the door. She was a young professor. But she was young, and it was bad. It was bad. It was every day you'd show up, 50 minutes, 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 50 minutes. You'd show up, and it was, didn't you think it was great? Wasn't Joe Pesci terrific? Or David, what's the guy's name? Anyway, it was bad. Powerful day. Enjoy. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Said for a long time, colleges and universities are the most dangerous places in America for young minds. Most are nothing more than indoctrination tanks for liberal thinking and viewpoints. Sadly, that's what a lot of them have become. I still believe in the concept of the institutions, but when they're overrun by people who are intolerant left-wingers, you do have a problem. It's because academia is like Iran coming out as being different from the regime means death. Well, there you go. They are concerned about that in Effingham. I still don't understand why they're I don't understand why they're concerned about it. It's a $20 billion investment, but I don't know what to tell you there. Will I ever get a number? I don't know. It won't be today. Not today, but maybe. Rule the Galaxy. Sounding, this is great because that's Joe, and Joe is in Indianapolis. When we talk about the reach and the spread of this program, the fact that we are getting people tuning into us in Indianapolis, absolutely amazing. We'll screw kids' minds up, and they know that. That's the thing. They know they're doing it. I've told this story before. I'll tell it again just for the heck of it. But I had a philosophy class, and it was an intro to philosophy, and the professor's name was Dr. Beard. Had a very round head. He looked a lot like Mr. Moneybags or whatever his name is, Uncle Moneybags or whatever his name is on the Monopoly game. And he came in the first day, and he had these overhead projector, and he's writing all these stuff. He's writing logical notation, and he's telling you, so this is the intro to philosophy, blah, 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 blah. And he keeps going and going and going. And, he's just writing this big thing. And he says, eventually, if you stick around with the discipline and you learn more about philosophy, you can even learn to write logical notation, and then you can write large equations like this. And then by the time he got to that point, he had finished filling the whole, and, if you remember the overhead projectors, he'd project this thing huge, and it's all this logical notation. And he says, you could write something like this. What is this? Oh, it's proof that there is no God. Anyway, why? Why do you do that? Why do you feel that your first mission in front of a brand new class of students is to tell them, I have proof that God doesn't exist? Why would that be the first thing that you did? I don't know what happened to Professor Beard over time, because I only took the one class with him, and I didn't really find him to be a particularly compelling individual. But you know what? I think Matt Morera, I think that's the class. No, I don't remember if Matt Morera was in this one or on another one. But anyway, I think Matt Morera was in history with me, actually, now that I think about it. It was funny to have a Brunswick kid in the class with you. But, I hope that somewhere down the line in Dr. Beard's life, and I suspect he was not a young guy 30-something years ago when he did this, so I don't think he's with us anymore. But I hope that before it all ended, he came to the realization that his logical notation didn't matter, that the equation he drew up was irrelevant. I hope he came to that conclusion. I don't know. Yeah, sorry about that. You snooze, you lose. You can't. We're doing 3 a day, and that's it. Nationwide, that's correct. Jeannie, it is so good to have you with us, by the way. Let's see. On the rare occasion that I get into the abortion debate, one of my base platforms says abortion is an ethical issue, not a religious one. Well, and same for me. And as a young guy, I was pro-choice because it was the hip, cool thing to be. And I will also say this: my mind was changed by a pastor. The pastor, who's a man I love to this day, didn't use a bit of religious argument at all. Changed my mind on the debate. It was purely a biological discussion. And I just kind of boil it down to this. The fertilized egg, the zygote, if you will. I have 2 questions about it. 1, is it alive? And 2, what is it? And if you accept, like most of us accept, and not everybody does, because we just had a Michigan Supreme Court justice who believes that chimpanzees should have the same rights as human beings. But most of us believe that human life is supreme on this planet and that innocent human life should be preserved. And when you ask the question of the fertilized egg, is it alive and what is it? The answer is yes and human. And if you believe human life is to be preserved, innocent human life is to be preserved, I don't think you have a choice but to be pro-life. I mean, it's a pretty simple biological discussion. So I'm with you on that. It's not, and I'll get that all the time if I get into it with people, the first thing they'll say, this is just because you're religion, just because your sky man says that you aren't supposed to do it. And that's never been my holding of that. It's never been my belief in that. Like I said, the logic that was presented to me that I bought and went, yeah, I can't argue against that, was presented to me by a pastor, but he did it in no religious context whatsoever. Because he was a pastor, he's also very much a man of science. He's very much kind of a Renaissance man, to tell you the truth. But he presented it in such a way that made me go, oh yeah, I can't argue that. And there was no religious connotation to it whatsoever. It was just straight up biology. Oh, I just woke up, Pecan Man. If he can find us. I was adopted, and I thank God I was born prior to Roe v. Wade. Well, Mrs. Rifen is adopted. Mrs. Rifen's story is amazing. If Dr. Beard wants to hear a story of the existence of God, the fact that she was born in Central Florida, her parents from Indiana, their entire lives, just happened to be spending a few years living in Central Florida when they decided to adopt her. And shortly after that, moved back to Indiana. And then when they decided to, I guess her mother decided she had to be somewhere warmer than Indiana, they moved here because she wanted to be in Florida. This was the closest they could come to Florida. So they wound up here because this was the best they could do trying to get to Florida. Now, a couple of things happen that, again, are just bizarre. And if you want to sit and doubt the existence of the Almighty, then you go right ahead and do so. But they wound up here by almost happenstance, accident. And first off, I don't know where I am without her. To me, it's the biggest miracle in the world that she wound up here for me. But I know a lot of you would go, that doesn't count. It does to me. But okay, fine. But consider when the time came and all the 23andMe stuff happened, and she started trying to find out, what her actual blood family was and where they were from. They're from here. Her grandparents live a little over an hour away from here. Turns out the woman that styled her hair for our wedding is a cousin that she didn't know was a cousin. She'd known her for years, didn't know they were related. She has relatives all over the place. This place is crawling with relatives of hers. We've met her father, who also lives a little over an hour away from here. For her to have been born in Central Florida, adopted by people who had barely lived outside of Indiana ever, and who went almost straight back to Indiana after that, and stayed there, then tried to get back to Florida and could only get here. No consideration for any of the rest of this stuff. And it turns out this is where all her family is. Okay. You cannot believe if you want. But and look, there's a lot of people say, oh, there's no such thing as coincidence. There are such things as coincidences. But sometimes the coincidences get so deep, there's got to be a hand in there. There's got to be a hand at play. I don't see any other way. And it worked out amazingly for me. So there you go. All right. Let's see. We have a couple more things we got to get into today, and I will try to do that and then try to let you get about your day for the day. I don't know if you remember this from yesterday. Ho, ho, ho. Remember yesterday we had that kind of weird story where it was everybody was looking for these kayakers that were missing, and the kayakers were missing, and then it turned out they were at home. It's okay. And you remember this is like this really anticlimactic story Well, they've arrested the dad in the kayak story. Hank Tatum, a man was arrested Sunday, after multiple agencies searched for him and his 2 children near the Steel Bridge boat landing after the children were reported missing. An Effingham County Sheriff's Office spokesperson said 37-year-old Joshua Bridges was arrested and charged with interference with child custody after he and the 2 children were later located at his residence. Bridges reportedly was not legitimized through the courts and has no custody of the children. Bridges had reportedly taken his 2 daughters camping. The mother of the children called Bridges to check on her 2 daughters on Friday night. She learned that one of her daughters had gotten sick and requested that the girls be brought home. On Saturday afternoon, the mother had allegedly been unable to contact Bridges and went to check the campsite around 2 p.m., where she found the empty campsite without the kayak. After confirming they were not at Bridges' residence, the mother called 911 and reported the children missing. Effingham County Sheriff's Office, Effingham County Fire Department, Bullitt County Sheriff's Office, Bullitt County Fire Department, Bryan County Sheriff's Office, Bryan County Fire Department, Georgia State Patrol, Georgia State Patrol Aviation Unit, and Georgia Department of Natural Resources, 4 drone pilots, Chatham County Aviation Unit, and U.S. Coast Guard Aviation assisted with the search. Bridges and the children were later located safely, by the way, at his house. And Bridges was arrested for his unwillingness in not returning the kids to the mother when requested, the ECO incident report said. Now, here's the thing that I don't understand about this, and we've got law enforcement guys listening. I've been around a lot of these. I've been around a lot of these custody things over the years. I've seen them. I've witnessed them. I've covered them. Almost every time, the cops will not arrest somebody because they'll go, "I'm sorry, ma'am, that's a civil matter. I'm sorry, that's a civil issue. You're going to have to do that in the courts. That's civil. We can't get involved." How is it that she got them to arrest this guy on this one? I don't understand that one at all. Well, it's interference with custody. Yeah, I know, and it is a lot, but nobody ever gets arrested for that. Unless she just knew somebody. That's the only thing I can figure out. Because nobody, you just don't see people get arrested for that. All right, let's see. Oh yeah. This was odd on WTOC. And it's worth looking at for a few reasons. Let's take a look at this thing. Georgia District's 4-day week gains attention. This is on WTOC's website. It's Chattooga County, by the way. And I don't have the story in front of me, but I read it, so I can just tell you about it. But basically, they have, I guess, years and years and years ago, they went to a 4-day week, Tuesday through Friday. They go in at 7:45, or they get out, in the afternoon, early afternoon. And they've been doing this for, 10, 12 years. They took 2 years off in the middle, went back to the 5-day week, and then went right back to the 4-day week. And it was just some odd things said like, well, this gives kids an opportunity to go to the doctor. Like, are little kids going to the doctor all the time? Is that a thing? All the time? Such that we have to eliminate 20% of the school year? I don't know. I just thought that was an odd excuse. And then the other thing that I had as a question, and look, the parents clearly don't have a problem with it, or else they would not be doing it. Clearly the parents would be outraged if they had a problem with it. But I want to know what the parents do on Monday. I mean, that's like an upending of their lives on Monday to give these kids an extra day. The other question I have is, are their holidays any shorter? Because I'm going to tell you, as a kid, sure, I would have loved having Monday off. Would have loved having Tuesday through Friday off too. I'll just go ahead and tell you this now. I didn't like school. It amazed me growing up that both of my kids would be like, when school time came around, they'd go, "Oh, we can't wait till school starts." And I would kind of go, "What? You can't wait till school starts? Like school? Like actual school? Okay. All right." I never had that. I've never felt that way ever, that I couldn't wait till school started. That was never a thing for me. But the 4-day week, I don't know, it just seems like it's a big problem for the families that have to completely rearrange their Mondays. Maybe they get it taken care of. Obviously, I mean, if there were enough of an uproar they wouldn't be doing it, but they are doing it. So I guess it's still going on and they're okay with it. All right. I think that's about it for us for today. If anybody's got any last licks they want to get in here, we'll certainly throw them out there for you. Yeah, so there you go. So we've got Jeannie saying divine intervention. Yeah, how can you see it as anything other than that? How can you see it as anything other than that? Born in Muncie, Indiana, now have a great relationship with the Bio family. JD Raven says same. And she's correct, because there's some days where I'm like, would you please stop texting your sisters? Hey, I'm here. Would you mind? Anything and everything has a purpose. Nothing happens without God's knowledge of it. I absolutely believe that. Yep. So that's Chattooga County. Now Scooter McDuder, our Postal Bureau chief, is closer to that area than we are, obviously. He says parents don't like it, but they've lost this battle over and over for years. That's interesting. Because like around here, if I'll just say if certain groups of parents erupt over something, things change. Things absolutely change. And that you're saying parents don't like it, but it doesn't matter. That's amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. Give me a 3-month summer and shorter days off during the school year. I would like both, actually. I feel like, and I could be wrong on this, but I feel like we used to have a 12-week summer, and I think we only have like a 10-week summer now. And I think kids need to have summer vacation. I really do. I really feel, and I'll tell you this, dumping them into some kind of a thing is not why I think they should have a big summer vacation. I think kids should have summer vacations so they can actually have unstructured times. I think kids need unstructured time. I actually think adults need unstructured time too, by the way. I think adults just need free time to do whatever they want to do sometimes. Unfortunately, you don't really have a lot of opportunities to do that, and you've gained the mental maturity and toughness to be able to deal with that. But as a kid, I think it's really important to give kids unstructured time, play time. But that's just me. Fewer days off during the school year. Okay. Yeah. Again, if we're compromising on a 3-month summer, let's talk about it. What is beeping in our house? There's a gigantic beep. Did something break in our house? What was that? Oh, okay. It's just the detector. Thank goodness. Where we live in Missouri. Yes, Jimmy in Georgia, not really in Georgia. Hey, Jimmy, by the way, I'm glad to see you here. I haven't seen you in a long time. They rarely have school on Monday, usually only as a makeup day for snow days or something like that. Interesting. How long is your summer vacation, Jimmy? Adopt as well. Welcome to the family there. Do you think transparency is essential to residents about data centers being built in your community? Sure. I mean, as much as anything else, I don't think, I'll say this, I don't think data centers should be in a different tier than anything else being built. I mean, if they're building a strip mall in your community, they should be just as transparent as building a data center. I really don't understand. I do understand why data centers are being put in a different category than everything else, because there's a lot of bad info out there about them and their effects. Do I think transparency is essential? I think government transparency is always essential. So yes, but again, I don't think any more so than building a minute market, or a landfill or anything else, or a factory, for that matter, any of it. Homer liked school. Of course you liked school. Shop class, middle school, NJROTC, electronics in high school. Yeah, I did none of that. Didn't enjoy it. I didn't like, and no offense, I have some teachers that I loved dearly at the time and I love dearly now. But I didn't like school. Didn't enjoy it. I think you should be close to sweater weather when school starts back. I mentioned this the other day. The fact that we did a breakdown. I did a breakdown some years ago, and I just started researching, what are the top rated school systems in this country? And there were almost no high ranking school systems that started before Labor Day. Almost none of them. Data centers are the devil. Well, there you go. There's a good, articulate, well-informed argument. I think it addresses all of the facts in the matter. Thank you so much. Upcoming school year. Okay, so this is for them in Missouri, for Jimmy. The upcoming school year, August 24th through May 28th. See, that ends about when ours does, but it starts later and they don't do Monday school. What in the world? I'm okay with data centers only if they have to hire locals. Anyone who's moved in the last year can't work there. Yeah, you can't mandate that. I thought you were a much more libertarian guy than that. So I would like them to open a Barnes and Noble somewhere, but they can only hire local people. They don't bring a manager in from out of the community for the Barnes and Noble to manage it. Patrick Parker is not allowed to bring anyone in from out of the community to run Parker's. I don't buy that. Again, that is putting a data center in a different class, and that's the part I don't understand. Like with the government transparency question Jeannie had, it's. I think they should be transparent with everything, and data centers are part of everything. I don't think they should be treated differently at all. Kelly, absolutely. Today's temperature forecast is approximately hell. But the only place I saw when I was doing show prep this morning that is opening cooling stations today is Hinesville. Hinesville's opening cooling stations. Nobody else seems to be opening one, but that seems to be a thing that needs to happen because it's rough today. Or people could actually get homes. That would be good too. Dan, we had a radio station and a public access channel for the local cable company at my high school. I used to come home bloody from splicing tape. Ooh. And we didn't have a radio station at the school when I was in school. When we were in college, we had a TV station, and I did do a show, and I have tapes of that show, and I will not show you those tapes of that show. But I'll just say this, as a 21-year-old guy, I did everything I wanted to do on that show. And that's it. That's what I'll tell you. I did everything I wanted to do. And broadcast it on the public access channel on the campus. And yeah, it was something very, very special. I'll just say that. Libertarian, no, I've not heard that. I think there should be a rule for all businesses. Oh, gee whiz. Let's see, there's a Wawa being built across from a Parker's on Highway 21 in Garden City. I'm having CVS Walgreens fly. Oh no, you ought to see in Glenn County, there's a thing I call the Four Corners. There's an intersection of Perry Lane Road and Spur 25. And on this corner, there is a Friendly Express. On this corner, there's a Parker's. On this corner is like a Peach. I can't remember what it's called. Peach something. And on this corner is a Circle K. Every single corner of that intersection, all four corners, there's a convenience store there. Well, and 341 and Community Road's 3 out of 4 corners there. Because they've got a Friendly, a Wawa, and used to be Parker's, but Parker sold it and got out of it. Now it's run by some Indian folk who I'm sure are very nice. But yeah, we got one intersection where all 4 corners are gas station convenience stores. It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Jeannie, you have a great day as well. Where can I get a Trump 2028 hat? Oh, I'll tell you what, you are trying to poke bears when you go out in public with a Trump 2028 hat. But I'll bet you Trump would sell you one. I'll bet you that's the case. Libertarians are the socialists of the right. Yeah, that's understandable. Post your old TV show on YouTube. It would go viral. Good for some. Ooh, yeah. I'm gonna pass on that. People who've seen it understand. I'll just say this. I wouldn't show it to my mother. Listen, you might be my instructor time. I read that China has data centers underwater. Is that possible? I think that is possible. Yeah. I think it is possible. And of course, again, ultimately, long term, my belief honest to goodness, my belief is they'll be in space in time. It just makes sense. Putting data centers in space, just the technology's got to get a little better, but not much, but a little better. But you'll start seeing that. I think in the next 10 years, you'll start seeing them put data centers up in space. I really think that's going to be the next thing. But yeah, I think underwater probably works as well. Again, I mean, they need water. There's the water. Jeff Jones, people believe there should be no data centers in Georgia, simply misinformed about them. I like the folks to the Chicken Little and the 10. I always call them the 5G guys. You know, remember, because when 5G was coming around, 5G is going to destroy us all. Our brains are all going to go to mush. And then, of course, 5G came in and nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. Winning the lottery for us would be a Krispy Kreme donut and Whataburger coming back. You know, let me say this. I enjoy a Krispy Kreme donut, but I'm gonna level with you. Well, I'm gonna level with you on two fronts. Two fronts, Harry K. James. I know you don't want me to disagree with you here on this, but one, I've never understood the fascination with Whataburger. I've never gotten the Whataburger thing. It doesn't, Whataburger, I've had it when it was, because, you know, it used to be right out here at exit 29. I'd go have a Whataburger and go, okay, it's a burger. There's nothing special about it. Wasn't like a Willy burger back in the day. You know, I may never have had a better hamburger than a Willy burger. But, yeah, Whataburger, you know, it was never really that big. And in fact, I remember when I was and it's not you, because when I was in college, people would go, oh, Whataburger is the greatest thing. And there was a Whataburger down Tennessee Street. And I was years in Tallahassee before I actually ventured down, because I'd heard enough about all the people. Whataburger. And went down there and I went, oh, Whataburger. Yeah. And then Krispy Kreme. I enjoy a Krispy Kreme, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think they hold a candle to Holt's. I don't, and I think I'd get some support on saying that. I like Krispy Kreme just fine, but I don't think Krispy Kreme holds a candle to Holt's. Not a candle. Just not seeing it. I'm going to skip Kelly's question for personal reasons. Trump 2032 would really get them going. And you know what? Trump will sell those. Data centers in space. Data centers in space in this episode. Yeah. It's a thing, though. I'm telling you, data centers in space will be a thing. You pay attention to that, because it will happen. Maybe those underwater data centers are being manned by their missing population. Stop it. Stop it. Dairy Queen is better than Whataburger? Yes, absolutely they are. And I will tell you, we went to, you know, we were at Disney World, the property. We didn't go in any parks. Again, people are like, you're boycotting. I thought you were boycotting. I'm not boycotting. I'm just not going. There's kind of a difference. I'm not saying I'm never going again, but we haven't been in a park now in a year and 7 months. A year and 7 months we haven't been in a park, Disney park. We've been on the property because we bought a real estate interest in the property, and we own that real estate interest until 2054, and so we go. We've got points. We can stay there. There is a new, they built a new building onto the Polynesian. I don't like the building because for the most part, it just doesn't have the flavor and flair and character of the old Polynesian resort. I think it's part of the problem with a lot of the resorts they're building now is they're more worried about cramming more rooms into less space and less worried about character and, you know, just having some kind of a flair to it. But the restaurant we went to in that new Polynesian building is called Wailulu. And it has a view of the fireworks from the castle, which we didn't know when we made we just went to reservation there because it was a new restaurant that we wanted to try out. And we turned out we couldn't get a reservation until 9:35. And I almost didn't take it because it's just so late. I'm an 11 o'clock lunch, 5 o'clock dinner guy, you know, because I spent so many years getting up at 3 to do the radio. And so we almost didn't take the reservation because at 9:35 at night, that's insane. So, but we did. We took the reservation because it was the only way we could eat at that restaurant. So we went to Wailulu, and of course they started the fireworks show, and I started videoing it on my phone, and about 15 seconds into it, Mrs. Rifen spilled both of our glasses of ice water onto me. So, and I have the video of that. But I will say this, the burger, because I go to the menu at Wailulu, and of course it's all vegetable, and that's not me. So they had a hamburger on the menu. The hamburger was outstanding. It was tremendous. One of the better hamburgers I've had in a long. It was kind of a it's that kind of that fried, loosely affiliated patty thing that I think of when I think Wendy's or Steak and Shake. It was that kind of burger. It was really, really good. Really good. All right, let's see what we got. Working with the technology that will be required, I'm skeptical of data centers being in space anytime soon, large-scale data centers at least. You let Elon handle it. Elon will be good. BurgerFi. Oh, I've heard of this, but it's FI, right? Has amazing onion rings. But they're onions. That's part of the problem with that. This town is drunk on McDonald's. I don't get the appeal of McDonald's other than the fries. The fries are great. The shakes were great once upon a time when the machines worked. But, the biggest thing that I ever really was big on McDonald's for was convenience and cheap, but it's not cheap now. It's certainly not convenient anymore. And tie-ins, they'd have good tie-ins. They'd have the new Batman movie would be out and they'd have tie-ins to that, but I don't really do a lot of that anymore either, or I don't care about them either way. 100% Whataburger is a very okay burger. You and my dad are like the only people I know who agree. Well, I think very okay is about right. I don't think it's a terrible burger, but it's nothing special. It's nothing I would go out of my way for. I would not go out of my way for that. We are doomed when chicken restaurants go out of business here. Popeye, I think Popeye's had a deeper underlying issue, and I'll say that. Fuddruckers is great. You are absolutely right. Fred McGorkin. Fuddruckers is fantastic. Fuddruckers struggles, unfortunately, financially, but it's good. Let's see. If the country is defended by AI data centers, will be high on the list of foreign adversaries to attack. The data center will have to be able to protect itself, as in Terminator. Well, again, that's why we have it. You got to be forward thinking here. That's why Space Force exists. That's why Space Force exists, is to protect the assets that we're going to have in space that will be vital to our function on a daily basis. When Trump came up with Space Force, a lot of people on the left made fun of him. And at first I was like, Space Force, what is that? And National Review. I know people like to bag on National Review. They wrote a really great piece on why Space Force is a necessary thing for the future. And they were absolutely, absolutely right. Robbie says, Holtz. Yeah, Holtz, man. Holtz is so good. I don't know that there is a better one than Holtz. Now, I say that even though I was talking to Jim and Marty at the ride Saturday, and they were because I was at Universal that weekend, and they were going to, did you make it to Voodoo Donuts? And I did not make it to Voodoo Donuts. And I will tell you why I did not make it to Voodoo Donuts, because Mrs. Rifen, we were there early. Mrs. Rifen said, I need something to eat, because she'd taken her morning medications and she had to put something on her stomach, and she just kind of has to have something in the morning to get going anyway. I don't. I can just get up and go. I'm weird about that. I don't get hungry at conventional, moments, but, and especially don't get hungry for breakfast. I think my stomach turns when I think about breakfast, but, which is weird because I love breakfast food. But, so we're going, and she's like, I got to have something to eat. And so we walked by, and there was Voodoo Donuts. And I went, what about Voodoo Donuts? And she goes, I want something to eat, not dessert. So that was kind of it. Yeah, there's the Krispy Kreme right there. I enjoy a box of Krispy Kreme. That's the other thing about prices. A dozen Krispy Kremes like over $10. Like, isn't it now? It's like $12 or something. When I was in college, 27 cents per donut, $2.70 for the dozen. You paid for 10, you got 12. I don't think they do that anymore either. Let's see, McDonald's are now empty now that prices are so high compared to the old days. Plus, they locked all their dining rooms during COVID, and they don't seem to have ever recovered that. There was a Whataburger in Valdosta years ago. It didn't last long. I'll bet that was part of the Mark Brunel Whataburger empire. we had a couple that were built here, one at Exit 29 and one on Altama Avenue, that were built very quickly. They were co-owned by Mark Brunell, the quarterback for the Jaguars, former quarterback for the Jaguars. He made a lot of investments in Whataburger, and most of them went totally belly up once the recession hit in 2008, and he lost his butt. You think about these guys and they make these millions and millions, especially the quarterback. These guys make millions they get endorsement money and they have millions of dollars on their contract and the incentives and all of this. And then you hear about them being broke years later and you're going, wow, what happened? But what happened with Mark Brunell is he made a bunch of real estate investments, and traditionally, there we go. Historically, real estate is the best thing you can invest in, but not in 2008. And so everything went belly up, and every investment he had went belly up. I like local burger places more typically. That's why I've never had a better hamburger than a Willie Burger. I've never had a better hamburger than Willie's Weenie Wagon on Altama Avenue. That's not exactly a joke, but I 100% believe China's lying about the population, is lying about everything else. No, I know. I just thought it was funny, but yeah, I know. Baker's Pride, Shipley's in Fort Worth. Where's my Ozempic? You'll need it at that point. Pre-casino Atlantic City, New Jersey had 4 bars at one intersection, better than convenience stores. I don't know if that's better than convenience stores. Time for my massage. Get a massage. Think, okay, I'll take your word for that. Wow, you slagged Krispy Kreme. You should be right. No, I'm not slagging I like Krispy Kreme. I quite enjoy Krispy Kreme. But Holtz is better. I'm just telling you, Holtz is better. Culver's is good and cheap. Culver's is good and cheap, and their burgers are good and their ice cream treats are good. You're absolutely right on that front. Culver's is good and Culver's is cheap. First time I had Culver's was on a trip to Indiana, actually. Remember it very well. And there's now one down at Exit 3 in Camden County. They're kind of spreading. The Culver's kind of spreading. There's one. Is there one in Pooler? I feel like there's one in Pooler. All right, my Savannah area people. Tell me if I'm wrong on that. G-Man was in Pooler last night, actually, watching the Odyssey. He went to the Royal Cinemas, which is a tremendous place. But I'm thinking there's a Culver's in Pooler near all that other stuff at that big shopping exit. Data centers will probably never need to be in space. Remember, when a computer was the size of a football field, data centers will go this route. Yes and no. I'll just say this. Think about the size of it. Well, there are little, Raspberry Pi size computers now. That's true. But, a desktop's kind of the same size it's been for a long time, even though they're much, much, much more powerful. I think they'll just continue to get more powerful, but I think they will still be in space ultimately. Rogan's at the Pier, best burgers around. You know what? I'm unaware of that. I will try that. Jamie, it's sad when you can buy a burger meal cheaper at Chili's than you can at McDonald's. Yeah, I totally agree. 5G turned Lib's brains to mush for sure. Turned somebody to mush. The old donut shop on Norwich Street had the best. Well, see, now here's the thing, Andrew. I've been told, I don't know everything, but my understanding is that Holtz, the old donut shop on Norwich Street, I think you're talking about Dunker Donuts. And they, I think, are tied in with the Holtz people. I think it's the same people or the same recipes, or there's some matchup between those two, as I've been told. So yeah, they were great. They were awesome. They were amazing. But I think they live on as Holtz. A mere smoke detector. That wasn't a smoke detector, by the way. That was not a smoke detector. Dolce on St. Simon's. Now, you know what? I have never had it. And I probably should. But yes, you're correct on that. I don't know that you're correct on it, but yes, that is a point that I will have to explore. Contract EQ's milkshake text fixed. Yeah, Holtz, thumbs up. Absolutely. Read an article the other day from Burger King saying they were listening and making changes. To me, they always had the worst fries. So the other day I went back because I love their original chicken sandwich. They've changed their fries, and I think they're the best in the industry today, not including Five Guys, which I don't really consider fast food. You can't consider Five Guys fast food because they charge sit-down restaurant prices for their stuff. Boy, do they ever. I will tell you this. When Mando and Grogu was out, when Mando and Grogu came out, I went to Burger King because I wanted to buy Mando Grogu. What? This is, and you got to understand, this is the thing my wife has to live with. This is why Jadine Rifen is one of the most amazing human beings I've ever known, is because I have a life where I can keep things like this, and I only get a little bit of grief for it. This is Grogu's garlic chicken fries box. I save stuff. It hasn't made it to storage yet. This is the bag from the Burger King I got my Mando Grogu stuff from. My storage unit is loaded with stuff like that. In 1999, when episode 1 came out, and they had a tie-in with Pizza Inn and Taco Bell and KFC, that's all sitting in my storage unit, man. Cups. So anyway, as you can see, I did go to Burger King, and I will tell you this: I got the Whopper combo meal. It was really good. The food was really good. The staff getting in a fight with a customer in the lobby, not so good. $14 for a Whopper, and the chicken fries were from a different visit. But I got a Whopper, fries, and a drink. Not a big drink, regular old drink. $14. Kids, that's a problem. But Johnny, by the way, Johnny, congratulations again on opening the Better Than a Rock laundromat. I think Mrs. Rifen said she was going to go down there today and check that out. A real need addressing. This is the beauty. Johnny Wynn has done a thing that economists tell you to do. You want to open a business, don't sit back and go, you know what I love? Let me open the business of selling things I like. What you do is you look at the marketplace and you go, oh, there's a need right there in the market. So I'm going to fill that need. I don't think Johnny is like a big collector of washing machines or has some great passion for laundry, but he recognized there was a hole in the marketplace and a need for that. And so he's opened up the Better Than a Rock laundromat at Exit 29. And Mrs. Rifen has been dying for that place to open because we have these Ruggables. You've seen Ruggables, right? You've seen these advertised on the interwebs, I'm sure. Ruggable, they're big rugs, but they have a base. And so you can Velcro the top of the rug off and throw it in the wash. And that saves you having to shampoo carpet and rugs and all that other stuff, having to rent a machine to do all that. You can just literally take the thing off and throw it in the wash and you're done with it. It is a very subtle Star Wars pattern. If you know it's a Star Wars pattern, you look for it, you see it. If you don't know, it just looks like a little twisty, foldy, viney thing. But again, that's why I know that I scored huge in life's lottery here. But she's been wanting to wash that because it's there. The problem is the living room rug is so large that you really can't just rip it off and throw it in the washing machine here. She's tried it before, but it just doesn't do well in a regular washing machine. So when she knew that Better Than a Rock was opening, she kind of went, well, that'll have one of those big washing machines. I can put it in the big washing machine. So that's going to work out nicely. At least there is one. I thought there was one right there near the outlets in Pooler. Because I feel like I've driven past it a few times and almost gone there, but not quite. Sharon says also, yes, there is one. And Jimmy in Georgia, who is not in Georgia, also says there is one in Pooler. There's one in Pooler Parkway. Sorry. AI tagging outlet in Pooler. Tanger. Tagging means tanger. It's right next, I believe, a valve and oil chain. Okay, there you go. Let's see. Great. Met Kelly at Pinball Palace on Saturday. Side quest. Your comment to the Lost Boys post, you hinting about writer Jeremias or Bohm trying to dig. Jeffrey Bohm I got to know. Jeffrey Bohm was my favorite screenwriter, and I got to know him. I met him on the set of Lethal Weapon 3 in Orlando. I was talking about that the other day when I was talking about Dave Shahulian. And there were 6 of us who went down to the set that day, and we had a life-altering experience. But one of those was I wound up having a relationship with Jeffrey Bohm. And we would talk on the phone once a month and everything. And he was basically, and the way he told it to me was they gave him the script of Lost Boys. And when he got the script for Lost Boys, it was little kids riding bikes and they were named Peter and Wendy and, all of that. And he turned it into something dark and edgy. But I don't think the greased up, shirtless saxophone player is a Jeffrey Boehm creation. I think if you look into the director, Joel Schumacher, I think you'll find it's right up his alley. That's what I'll say. Jennifer, my parents moved from Brunswick to Brownsville, Texas in 1950. I was raised on Whataburgers. There are worse things to be raised on. John says, yes, there is one in Pooler and Savannah. I thought there was one that near the Tanger outlets. Yeah. What about Hunt Brothers Pizza? Don't get me started on Hunt Brothers. I was driving down, what was I driving down? I was driving down 341. Newcastle Extension, whatever. And I was passing by, there was a convenience store that very proudly advertised Hunt Brothers Pizza on their big sign. And I just went, why would you do that? People want to go there. Why would you do that? Just, you might as well just say, we're selling cardboard for you to eat. It would be the same thing. Let's see. Dunker was the best. Dunker was really, really good. Computers aren't even close to the same size they used to be. I'm typing on right now that I pulled from my pocket. Yeah, but I'm talking like desktops. Like a desktop is the same size as a desktop for the most part. But massively more powerful. The first desktop I ever bought was 8 megs of RAM. And now they laugh if you have 1,000 times as much memory as that. You have 8 gigs of RAM on a desktop and people are just going, I have a Surface Pro that I run this off of. And it's 16 gigs of RAM. So, they don't always just shrink it. They just kind of, a thumb drive is the same size as a thumb drive, has always been. But they're a lot more powerful. The same with a portable hard drive. They're about the same size they've always been. They just get a lot more powerful. That's my point on that. Sunrise Donuts on Norwich, owned by Gary Scher. Now, I know Gary. Did he have Sunrise Donuts on? For some reason, I was thinking that was somewhere else, like Chapel Crossing or something. What am I confusing that with, Dan? I'm sure that's my issue. I don't know what it is. Nautica Joe's Great Hammer. I did not know this. Had not heard that. Hope Scott works a contract deal to receive a year's worth of Hunt Brothers Pizza. You might as well just put it on the recycling pile because it's just cardboard. It's just cardboard. Oh, stop it. Let's see. I can easily build a server using one or more Mac Studios to run AI smaller than a shoebox. Yeah. Snazzy's has a phenomenal board. Now, where is Snazzy's? Tell me about Snazzy's, John. Wayback Burger next to Buffalo Wild Wings was pretty good. Actually, I was, when they first opened, we were discussing an endorsement with them. And it never happened for whatever reason. And I'll say that, one of the things, I haven't really talked about the iHeart situation much because I haven't really had anything new to say in about a week. But one of the things I feel really bad about that situation, the iHeart situation, is I feel bad for the salespeople. It's funny because of everybody still remaining working for the company. I heard from all of the salespeople. They all reached out to me. And I feel really bad for them because they went out and sold, hey, this program, this is a great program, highly rated program. We support this program, only to have that yanked out from under them. And now they have to go back to the clients and go, oh, okay, well, we didn't really like that program so much, but we really like this program. And they sold endorsements with me. They sold me pitching products, and they had to tell these people this man is trusted and he's confident. He's the guy, and people listen to him and blah, blah, blah. But then the company just kind of went, no, never mind. Really yanked the rug out from under them. And to me, hurt all of those guys. And I hate it for them because I liked them. And, the other thing was we were having a really good year this year. That's the other thing that just blows me away about the whole thing. This year was really shaping up to be the best year we'd had in a while. But boom. But anyway, yeah, we were at one point having discussions when they first opened. And I'll say this, I like Wayback Burger. We've had it a couple times, but it's very greasy. I mean, you better be ready to have grease everywhere. You better be, I mean, it's like Jerry curl greasy. It's greasy. Bacon blue cheeseburger. All right, keep that in mind. Sorry, Mr. Wynn, you have to compete against free washers and dryers provided by the city rec department. Yeah, there's a lot of that, but that's not him. That's not his audience. That's not his crowd. That's not his. Hey, he's got exit 29 over here. He's going to be good. Better than a rock is that Savannah Mayor's campaign motto. No, he's not. He's done campaigning. Number 36 is here. We were talking yesterday. Actually, I've got to tell you more number 36 at some point, but I got a lot going on this morning, so I'll try to reach out at some point today. King City Kitchen Wagyu burger is expensive but awesome. Where is King City Kitchen? Tell me that, because I don't know. One key to building new data centers is to find communities that welcome them for their huge economic impact and not force them on the community. Yes, that is true. It is hard to find those communities, but yes, you are correct. A willing community is much better than an unwilling community for something like that. It's also Culver's on Montgomery Crossroad in Savannah. Love Montgomery Crossroad. That's where Comics and More is. I love, there was a guy on YouTube who went to he did several videos. He went to every single comic shop in the state of Georgia and reviewed them all and ranked them all per town and everything. And Comics and More would not let him in the door. Well, they wouldn't let him film. I'm sorry. They'd let him in the door. They wouldn't let him film. And he did not rank them the highest, but he did give them a pretty good review. But he gave Neighborhood the highest rank. And I gotta be honest with you. Neighborhood's okay. It's cute. But you want to get dirt under your fingernails and go to a place that's just got years of stuff and you want to dig through and find these hidden gems that somebody missed somewhere. Comics and More, it doesn't get any better than that place. Always. Most commonly used computer is the one we all have in our pocket, and they're thousands of times more powerful than the old Sage. Sure, but again, computer for computer, desktop, about the same as it was, size-wise, does a lot more. Our students at the Space Academy, Space Cadets. Do you guys remember Space Academy with Jonathan Harris on Saturday mornings on CBS? In the Navy, the computer that I worked on, the Yuck 20, had a whopping 16K of memory, and I could program it, not with a computer, one bit at a time. Yeah, I had my Commodore 64, 16K. Working with a group to place a data center in a very poor Georgia county. If successful, it will double their tax. That's the thing. I had a county official tell me the other day that if we had a big data center in Glenn County, that he believes it would be able to wipe out the property tax. I'm sure he's not talking about the school's share of it, but he says it could wipe out the property tax. So Jeff Jones, I'm with you on that. I'm totally with you on that. Just wonder, what about crystals didn't work in Brunswick? There are none left. Let me tell you what doesn't work. Oh, did the one at 36 get gone? I'll tell you what about crystal didn't work in Brunswick. It's crystal. I'm sorry. You know me. First off, hate pickles. And you've got to do a rain dance to get a crystal burger that has never been touched by a pickle. And then also the onions want nothing to do with that stuff. Crystal has never been a place that has anything for me. So I'm okay with that. Snazzy is located at 17 and 95. 17 and 95. So at exit 29 then? Or down the road somewhere else at 17. Because 17 and 95 kind of run into each other a few times because they're north-south. Tell me where that is still. Program with a keyboard one bit at a time. Yep. It's a bar and grill. They have awesome live music, awesome wings too. Definitely worth a visit. All right, got it. Steve Glosson, 1138 in the house. Glad to have you there. Oh, it's in Richmond Hill. Okay. All right. It's in the Quality Inn. Is that also where Four Jackson and Jill are playing? Let's see. Data center accepting community. Where is that place that doesn't fall victim to foreign propaganda? Yes, I know. Testing 1, 2 again. Hi. It's working. King City Kitchen's the old Sandcastle. Oh, okay. I was just there the other. I wasn't in there. I ate lunch at Palmer's, and I had to park down near that, and I saw it, and I went, "Oh wow, this is not Sandcastle." I knew Sandcastle had closed, but I didn't realize they had something else going on there. But yeah, that there was something going on there, so I guess that was it. That was one of the first heavy rotation ads I remember when I first got into radio. Was Bob Kelly at the Sandcastle Cafe. on St. Simon's Island. Vic 20. Yeah, see, my cousins had a Vic 20, and I went crazy. Went and visited them in Tennessee for the summer. My cousin, man, they had Vic 20. It was awesome. And I got home, and my parents, for my birthday, got me a C64, which was like even better than the Vic 20. Property tax for all county property tax or taxes for homesteaded properties. I don't know, but I'm homesteaded, so that's how I feel. So one article that said Columbia County residents want a data center to wipe out property. Yeah, Columbia County. Okay, yeah, that is. I was told by a county official here that could happen. That was real. That if we were to lure, not that there's one pending, but if we were to lure a data center, that it could possibly wipe out all of our property taxes. There's a data center coming to county in Georgia where I grew up, and I don't know anyone down there who wants it to be there. And that's sad because I think a lot of that is, again, misinformation, disinformation, bad information that leads people to that conclusion. Vic 20, C64, and a K Pro 2. I never had a K Pro 2. Never had a K Pro 2, but I had that C64. I still have the C64. It's in my storage unit. You know, they went up. We got a notice the other day. My storage unit, the price of my storage unit went up again the other day, which drives Mrs. Rifen nuts because she doesn't want me to have a storage unit. Like, there are very few things that we disagree on in life, but one of them is she believes people should not have so much stuff that they have a storage unit. I disagree. Well, I agree, but I think people should have a house that is so gigantic that you can have a data center or a storage. They don't need a storage unit, but I got it. It was going up, and I may appeal to them and say, "Don't you understand this? This is not just a storage unit of my stuff. This is a valuable historical archive." Maybe that will work. Maybe not. There's a little data center in the county, in Appling County, smaller than a data mining center. I can attest that it's very loud. All right. I don't know but it's not a data center, you said. Interesting. Yes, he left Rome earlier this year. Maybe the lefties on St. Simon's will open Queen City Kitchen. You'll be serving. Don't you stop it. Just stop it. All right. On that note, we got to get out of here. We've been over 2 hours, for crying out loud. So once I got done with my stuff, people were just chatting, and I figured I'd chat with everybody. And so we did that. So on that note, I'm going to get out of here. Oh, no. Yeah, see, now I know it's time to go. I know it's time to go. We're making those jokes. So everybody be careful. Stay cool today. If you need to, take an ice bath or something. And now we're talking. Now we're talking. Scott storage unit for UNESCO protection. Yes. I think much more worthy of that than the Okefenokee. Much more. It's downtown St. Simon. I saw somebody yesterday. It was shown to me a Facebook post where somebody had referred to, they had a deer with a broken leg in their backyard. It was a terrible, awful thing. And they said, I called the St. Simon's police and they did something. You called the St. Simon's police? Tell me about the St. Simon's police. But then the person that sent it to me, we did have a discussion about downtown St. Simon's as well. The village is downtown St. Simon's. Build an RV shelter and enclose. I can't. I mean, but first HOA. Secondly, not enough room in the backyard. If I had more room, yes, I'd love to do it. Lee, see ya. Don't live anywhere near Appling. Great show per usual. Yeah, you're just trying to redeem yourself from that awful joke. All right, I got to get out of here. See you guys tomorrow. We'll start at 7:00. Have a great day. And again, stay out of the heat. Be good.